Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. Been a while since we've seen Oort Cloud, or have we even ever seen Oort Cloud? This is a really rare map that I get to see players play, and especially in 8 versus 8. You can see today we've got an 8 versus 8, as I might have implied. And I am absolutely thrilled to take a look at this. This game was sent in by Blizz of TNT, who wanted me to take a look at their build order, see if there was anything that we could analyze here and critique. And so we'll be taking a look there, but also just a general look at this game because I'm really excited to watch some gameplay on Oort Cloud. Let me show you the name of the map really quick here. Oh, it's always hard to find. There it is, Oort Cloud version 2. You can see it's this massive metal map. So on these metal maps, whoa, that's green. Yep, you can see the entire floor is metal. So every one of these metal extractors extracts wherever you put it down. So you can build a tremendous amount of them. There's essentially no limit to the amount of metal that you can pull out of the ground, which means that these games don't tend to last long. And indeed, the replay file for this game would indicate likewise that this match is not going to be a long one, but that probably means it's going to be an explosive one. So right off the gate, Blizz of TNT has gone for 2 of these windmills as well as 2 metal extractors, and we're going right into the vehicle bay. You might notice that the wind power in this map is locked at 25, which means wind speed is the way to go for that early game energy. Basically, you want to just go for as much wind speed as you can until eventually you have enough to go straight into advanced fusion reactors, and that's the only next most efficient system. I mean, I suppose you could go for a fusion reactor, but it wouldn't take very many wind turbines to get to a comparable amount of energy production. So I think you might even just be better off going for wind. Somebody can crunch those numbers down below and let me know if that's accurate or not, but I'm sure it's pretty close. Anyways, we have a 8 versus 8 on this map. I mentioned that I don't get to see that often. That's because, well, this map is really well organized for 4v4s. You can see there's sort of a 4x4 grid, which means that there's 4 perfect start positions for 4 people per team. But it means that we also can see 8 versus 8s where we sort of see like a forward and a rear player, or, you know, interesting strategies like that. It sort of makes this into a little bit more of a backline, frontline, backline kind of a matchup, rather than just a straight lane matchup, which is interesting. It is really interesting because when you take a frontline backline matchup and you combine that with a map that has essentially unlimited metal resource, you get you get some pretty interesting games. Representing our red team here, we have Diver, going to be playing on the northern side against 2 players who have both spawned on the same island, so one of them didn't push forward like their teammates did. Going to be difficult to push in there because of that, but also it means that they are not going to be able to control this third island from the left on the top here. I almost need to like grid this off, right? Kind of like divide it into numbers and letters like a chessboard or something like that. Anyways, a little bit of vehicle combat here, and I think vehicles are absolutely the way to go. Of course, this entire map is flat, except for this, which is like a weird little oddity. There's a little bit of this mountain kind of peeking through here. Certainly just part of the way that this terrain was probably randomly generated. It just ended up with a little spike right there that cut through the shape of the map. But yeah, you know, aside from that, 99% of this map is completely flat, so vehicles are absolutely the way to go. We do see a lot of bot labs, and I guess ticks are going to work phenomenally as well, just based on the fact that they can run past a lot of these defenses. So this is quite nice. We do see some of these twin guards set up here, not even bothering with the light laser turrets. We're just going right for the medium ones, and I think it's probably a good decision. We really don't need to fiddle with those. Scary Rabbit definitely needs to move up here and start claiming this to build an economy. What I would recommend when you're playing on one of these metal maps is to get one constructor. Yeah, actually, Blizz of TNT doing a great example of this. Get 1 or 2 constructors that are just constantly building metal extractors, 1 or 2 constructors that are just building windmills, and you're going to be in a really solid position. You can see Blizz of TNT has set up a nice little defensive line here, with Hawk Online also setting up theirs a little further back. Going to be going for a jammer tower, a radar tower, a Juno. That's actually pretty early. Although I guess I'm still thinking like this is a normal match. This is a metal match, so really you're going to be able to pay for that Juno really quickly. Blizz of TNT pushing forward with the commander, probably going to degun this. There we go, very nicely done. Hawk Online is making the right move here to stand in front of the laser turret so that it cannot be degunned by Blizz of TNT. That was one of the recent commander updates. I guess, I mean, how long before I have to stop calling it a recent commander update? Let me know down below. how far back is a update considered recent? But anyways, The most recent commander update, big commander update anyways. You can go check out my video on that if you are interested in all the details, but the TLDR, too long didn't read, is the commander can no longer degun other commanders. There's slight tweaks to the health and metal and whatnot, but that's probably the most substantial change that you're going to notice in your games. Scary Rabbit here going for that T2 bot lab, and yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the wrong decision here. We are on... finding the amount of metal extractors here. 2, 4, 6, 8. I guess I could just count, right? Really terrified about doing any sort of counting in the middle of these videos. Whoa, commander sacrifice here to eat up that metal. Kind of an odd decision considering how prevalent metal is on this map. I think we definitely should be going for way more metal extractors than build power right now. We have a tremendous amount of metal going into these construction turrets when really we should be putting that into a bunch of metal extractors on the floor. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, trying not to do math on stream, which does segue perfectly into continuing to announce that I'm going to be streaming live on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you'd like to tune in, hang out, and talk about all sorts of stuff, I'm going to be hosting a little live stream, and you guys are more than welcome to tune in. We've tried a couple of them, and they have been an absolute treat. Super thrilled about those, so I'm super excited to do some more of that. That'll be starting up, well, as of this video being recorded, it'll be tomorrow. Or it'll be today, actually. I think this video will be releasing the day of the stream, so tune in later today. Oh, we have Legion. I didn't even notice. Okay, so we do have the Legion commanders up here. The Legion looks a whole lot like Cortex. The commander looks like Armada, but the bots look like Cortex. But yeah, we have Legion up on the front line, so we can see these Legion Rocketeer bots. I have to switch into my like Legion commentating mode. I always forget some of the Legion units. I memorized all the Legion and all the Cortex units, but I haven't quite sorry, I memorized all the Armada and the Cortex units, but not quite the Legion ones, so you'll have to forgive me if I have to take a minute to remember some of these names. Take a look here. These are the Ballista, the medium rocket bot. We don't have another medium rocket bot. We have light rocket bots, which are the Cortex and the Armada rocket bots. Ooh, the Aggravator and the Rocketeer. You'll have to trust me on that because I can't find an example at the moment. Most people have gone for these vehicle bays. Oh, there's a Cortex bot lab back here, so we could take a look here. Yes, there we are. Okay, so I'm right. Doing my duties. Just came back from vacation. That's still pretty fresh on my mind, so glad to see that I'm not too rusty. I did accidentally release a video with the I had forgot to clip out the early games. Accidentally gave everyone a nice jarring look behind the scenes. So if you were one of the lucky, I think it was like 4 viewers or something that did see that when it went live, disregard, humbly disregard, and go check out the recut version. You're gonna love it. Anyways, the front lines are sort of stagnating here, as a lot of people are basically just deciding to go up to T2. We do have the T2 Legion bot lab coming up here, which offers some interesting bots. We have the Napalm Skirmish bot, the Belcher. Kind of interesting. It can fire at a very long range and fire those napalm shots, which are interesting because it's damage over time, which is more or less what rocket bots already are. So it's like it's a different way of doing the same thing, but which I think is interesting. I think it offers more tactical nuance, which is really good to see. Now, Bliss of TNT is still on a T1 production facility. We do have metal extractors up and running. We're producing 28 metal a second. We're producing more than enough energy, 350 energy. So really, we're hitting a build power issue right now. We definitely need to see some construction turrets coming up anytime soon here. We do have the constructor selected. Ooh, it's going to be more metal extractors. I mean, that's not a bad idea. We should definitely still have those queued up. Those are spaced out, interestingly. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but if you hold down Shift and left Alt, you can do these very nice little squares of metal extractors. And then if you hold Shift and Alt, and then you press Z or X. Z is in zebra, or X is in exalted. How about exalted? There we go. I have actually got a new thing, X-ray. That's the phonetic alphabet. I got a poster with the phonetic alphabet on it, so I'm going to try and memorize it, just because I think it might be very, very cool to know. It's one of those things that you can whip out at a party, and everyone relieves a deep sigh and is like, ah, yes, okay, here's our guy. There's always one of them. couple of gauntlets up here, and this is probably one of the few maps that I say build gauntlets to your heart's content. There's really no reason not to. There's so much metal out on this map that it really doesn't matter. You can afford to spend that metal however the hell you damn well please, because at the end of the day, there's always just more to pull out of the ground, and you can keep building these metal extractors at a tremendous rate here. I'd love to see T2 aircraft handed out as just a way to step everyone up to T2. The problem the red team is having right now is that not everyone is on the same tech level, whereas the blue team is all stepping into the tech level at the same time. So we see T2 units out here up top for both of those players. We see T2 units here. Well, actually we only see T2 for the blue player. Hawk Online does not have T2 out yet. But those T2 sniper bots are devastating against these T1 vehicles. They will melt them in one shot exactly every single time. They're absolutely brutal. So they are getting more than enough value out to help the teammate who is not on T2 yet. Meanwhile, T2 units are out here for Destam Ryans, the green player, the dark green player here, and then we have the sort of seafoam color player still in T1, but building a massive army of units. You can see pumping out these rocket bots like it is nobody's business. Yeah, tons and tons of them per second with a huge amount of build power, and eventually we're going to get to a T2 lab. It's just going to take a while because these builders are a little bit inefficient about the way that they build these constructor turrets. Anyways, also down south we have T2 here, T2 vehicles, T2 Cortex vehicles, as well as T2 Armada bots, which does mean that we're going to be stepping up the economies as well, as you can see with these metal extractors, which is very, very nicely done. These metal, or the economies rather, just explode tremendously quickly when you're in one of these games here, and I think certainly if there was one area that I could reach out to you, Blizz of TNT, by the way, I love your name, and I could offer you a helping hand, a word of advice, it would be you need to keep scaling your economy here. One constructor working on this is definitely not enough, but also, ooh, yeah, we're leaking tons and tons of metal here. You might be coming from the 8v8 games on the regular maps where, you know, you're not you're not worried about like you're worried about like 2 or 3 metal extractors on the map, right, that you have to capture. Whereas on this one you have essentially an infinite amount of metal to continue extracting here. So try to learn how to expand your economy and make it outgrow your enemies, and just focus on that, and eventually you're going to be in a really good spot. Uh-oh, looks like we left our construction vehicle queue on, and so we're going to be producing a ridiculous amount of construction vehicles. That was almost entirely a mistake, almost guaranteed to be a mistake here. We do see the mini Ragnarok that was built. These are always hilarious to see. I mean, they are exactly what they look like. They're just a tiny Ragnarok that can fire these little plasma shells out and about. But we don't nearly have the energy to produce these, or to be running this, rather. Which is quite unfortunate. What is blowing these things up over here? I'm trying to figure that out. Is it scuttles? We're using scuttles. There's a huge explosion. I think it might have been a scuttle that we snuck into the back lines here. Looks like we did finally stop producing. Oh, well, no, the constructors have just jammed the port here, which means that we're not spending all that energy elsewhere. But we also do have a fusion reactor up and running. Meanwhile, the blue player, you can see, has ecoed up tremendously. So we already have an advanced fusion reactor out. We have these T2 wind turbines, which on this map, the T2 wind turbines, they're experimental. They turn on when you turn on Legion, I believe. But basically, they do 10 times whatever the wind speed is. So right now, they're producing 250 each, which means that for the low cost of, let's see here, 370 metal, you can get half the power output of or a quarter of the power output of a fusion reactor, which is absolutely devastating. So at this point, Blizz of TNT has fallen desperately behind here, and unfortunately, their teammate behind them has also not ecoed properly, which makes this a tremendously underpowered lane right now, which means that Hawk Online as well as KKND646 are going to have an easy time pushing through here. I think some sprinters would probably be a good idea to accompany these snipers. The snipers are great for picking those units off at a long distance, but if any swarm of ticks were to jump on top of these snipers, it would be a really, really bad day. Meanwhile, these snipers are eager to start firing at these Centurion, easily picking them apart. It's almost exactly what those snipers were built for. Any of those T1 units are just going to get absolutely ravaged here. We're setting up lines of defense, but that's really not what you want to go for. You want to promote aggression as much as possible. You need to do some sort of damage, and unfortunately, it looks like we are basically drawing the lines of war rather than pushing them, and I think that's going to be a fatal mistake here. You can see more walls, more of these T1 walls. They give a false sense of security because, of course, all those T2 units can just roll right over those walls, and they won't even really bat an eye to this much T1 defense. The laser turrets, they'll scuff up the T2 eventually, but it's going to be very slow. and it'll be an arduous process. Snipers continue to move forward here. Ooh, a lot of them wasting their shots there. Sometimes what you want to do with the snipers is you want to right-click and drag your formation in sort of a zigzag pattern, just so you make them all spread out into different heights. Is that the right word? You basically want them to misalign so that they're not all firing at the same time. Otherwise, they're all going to fire all of their shots at one target, and then they're uncharged for so long. Commander does go down right there, as the snipers will quickly dismantle it. Only takes a couple of sniper shots to kill a commander. As the sharpshooters begin to disassemble some of these T1 tanks, the constructor horde moves in. Looks like we finally look back at that and realize where all of our metal and energy was being depleted into. More Ragnaroks, more of these mini Ragnaroks have been built on the front lines, but we don't have the energy to fund them right now. They may be mini, but they still take a tremendous amount of resources. Eventually those snipers were cleaned up here, but at tremendous cost and very inefficiently, so that's always unfortunate to see. We also have spy bots everywhere, so Blue's vision currently is quite good. Now the bottom half of the map for the blue team hasn't really been scouted yet, but at this point it looks like our submitter here, Blizz of TNT, excuse me, is going to be out of the game, at least for now. Somebody's going to have to hand over a constructor if they want to get back into that game. Oh, I did notice the symbol of a couple of spiders over here. Ah, we have a couple of termites, sneaky beakies, that have walked their way around. It looks like we tried to walk the termites. I'm guessing they went around the outside here, although it's possible they went around the inside. No, probably not, actually. Either way, these spiders are just chilling, bing chilling, as they say, and we're just not going to deal with it. We have paralyzers over there, the shuriken, trying to do their very best, but not really going to be able to do much. These constructors have been used as a sacrificial lamb in order to waste sniper shots, I suppose. sort of an odd move. You don't see that very often, but I suppose it's one of those moves ever. Sheldon here engaging with the sniper ball. The Sheldon, it's an interesting thing. Like, the Sheldon will win if the sniper's number is low, but then as soon as the snipers snowball, they instantly win. And that's basically true of the snipers in general against basically every unit. Sort of obvious to say, but it's an interesting interaction. Anyways, it looks like we have the Arbiters out now, the long-range missile bots, and they are going to be more than happy to dismantle this T1 defensive line with no trouble whatsoever. Those heavy rockets they launch are absolutely devastating. Yeah, it's nice that the Legion faction bridges the gap between the light rocket bots and the heavy rocket bots with the ballista, the medium rocket bot. Now we have a Razorback heading into the back line here of him, who is unfortunately low on T2 units at the moment. Eco did not scale nearly well enough. We needed to see a whole lot more metal extractors, plenty more windmills. We needed to see a whole lot more of everything, essentially. Going after the commander, not a bad idea. Commander will go down, and it looks like that will be the all for our one true scale, one chevron hero here as the rocket bots swarm through. We do have some bombers trying to make a valiant save on this area over here, but frankly, there's just too much. There's nowhere near enough bombers to carpet bomb this entire area effectively, and that means that most of these bots are going to essentially push through unhindered. Well, I say that. I guess there is quite a lot of bombers. They're not going to do a whole lot against those Centurions. Ooh, sorry, I missed this. The Razorback has pushed forward here and is still continuing to devastate this northern section. Trying to get the Razorback right on the edge of its fire range here so that it doesn't die, but we realize that unfortunately, we're going to have to sacrifice it. Totally worth it though, as it kills Lone Wolf's massive production facility here, and they are essentially completely wiped out of the game. At this point, the bombers are continuing to sweep forward, and things are looking bad. I just want to check one thing really quickly on my recording software, and we are good. I was worried that I heard a little click in the headphones, and I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to hear that too. But I was worried that I just disconnected my entire microphone. Still ironing out some quirks from when I replugged it in. I had taken it with me on the off chance that I wanted to record while I was on vacation, but I decided no, I'm just going to spend the time with my family. I'm not gonna worry about that. Not gonna stress them out. Not gonna stress myself out. And I think, for what it's worth, I think that was the right decision. But certainly, it does mean that I have a couple of tweaks to make here. Razorback squad moving in, and there's definitely not enough to deal with this. Aircraft is a good idea, but the Razorbacks can shoot upwards with their laser Gatling guns, and they're going to be more than happy to tear apart this army as they continue marching towards the economy center of Log, as well as Interlinked here, who are, well, ironically interlinked with this other player. It's funny, the Razorback is almost like the big brother to the Centurion. It's funny that we see these two working together in tandem here. The Razorbacks have destroyed the power production here of Log, which means that they are essentially going to be unable, that's the right word there. Getting back into my dictionary as well here. Interlinked has boldly moved the commander right next to the Razorbacks. There we go, we do see a D-gun. A little bit too late now, but at the very least we save face here, and the Razorbacks will be halted. Meanwhile, bunch of gunships here, the Roughnecks, also tuned, and I think definitely for the better. They have been given a significant buff here. You might notice that their projectiles are quite a bit faster, and I believe their fire rate was tuned up a little bit as well to match that, make it feel a little bit more natural. But anyways, the Roughnecks here swarming the yellow player, and that is basically going to be it for our yellow hero down south. We do have a nice big eco center down here, although we went for the energy extractors. Now that is normally what you would do, right? That's the right decision if you're going to be playing on the oh, we have the pawn cannon. Launching the pawns all the way across the map over here. Yep, very nice. Normally you would want to build those energy converters if you are building some advanced fusion reactors, but in this circumstance it's just going to be a whole lot better to build a ton of metal extractors, since there's tons and tons of metal, a essentially infinite amount of metal all over the map that you don't really have to worry about. At this point, the red team has been absolutely devastated. There's little to no defense mounted at this point, and it looks like the blue team will sweep across here. The pawn launcher is so hilarious. It generates pawns. It costs a tremendous amount of metal and energy, but it builds pawns. You can see the little bar charging up, and then it fires them across the map wherever it's aimed at. And it has a tremendous range, too. It can really reach out super far. And so we're launching pawns across, and then wherever these land, we can use them. Very, very nicely done. I agree with you, Blizz of TNT. God, the pawn launcher is so cool. It sure is. I love that. I love that thing. It's a little bit busted. Cortex is going to need some sort of equivalent and equivalently devastating structure if we want to keep that in the game, or at least integrated into the base game. But for now, it's a fun experimental unit to use for sure. Pawn swarming the northern commander here, and it won't be long before Log is pounced upon by a whole bunch of gunships that do find the commander eventually. It looks like we were going to go down with our ship and sacrifice the commander. Down goes the last commander on the red team, and that was a very quick, very neat, and very action-packed game on Oort Cloud. Really love this match. Always heats up super quickly. You can see the eco scaling was absolutely phenomenal for the blue team, and I love to see it. Thanks a ton for sending this one in, and let me know what you thought about it. That's right, you right behind your screen there. What you thought about this down below in the comment section. I'm happy to hear from you guys. I'm also going to link to the Discord, which is now officially open, whoop whoop whoop, for the Brightworks community. Currently a work in progress, so feel free to go on there and let me know your suggestions. We're always updating, always changing, always improving, and always wishing you a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.